Okay, this video provides an overview of some of the techniques that you can use to visualize data. Specifically, the data that we're going to visualize is account stratification data. This originally was a solution that I was working on at a client and thought it was interesting, so I kind of genericized it and moved it into developer org, and that's what I'm going to be presenting on today. But I'll present it as the client presented it to me. So we have a marketing department that conducts surveys about all of their active accounts on a quarterly basis. And this is a custom process. It's something that they came up with on their own. But basically, they're going to take survey data and total contract value data for an account. So we want to know how much money we're getting from the account, and we want to know what the reps' experiences have been at the account. Using those two data points, we're going to create some visualizations and we're going to create some classifications. They call this stratification. I think other companies might call it segmentation. I think there's a variety of different ways to look at it, but when we get to the final visualization that we built in D3, stratification I think is actually a good word for it. When they first presented this problem to me, everything was done in Excel. So they had reps filling out surveys in Excel. They had macros, which were building the quadrant visualization that we're going to show later in the demo. Everything was in Excel, and it was an advanced solution that they had built, and they had really done a good job with it, but it was pretty time consuming to manage, especially for a small marketing department. So we have two problems. We have a business problem, which was that we want to classify accounts according to certain criteria. And then we have a technical problem, which is business users want to be able to see their account classification in the Magic Quadrant. Right now in Salesforce standard dashboards, there's no Magic Quadrant option. And in Wave, there's no type of quadrant visualization that you can use. So we're going to first try and recreate this quadrant visualization, and then we're also going to try to add additional visualization to the page. So this is what we're going to talk about from a solution perspective. First, we want to define a methodology. So I described a little bit earlier about what this particular client's methodology was, which is that they were going to take survey data, so how reps were interacting with the account, and they were going to take just raw contract value data, which isn't subjective to a rep's survey responses. It's just how much money came in the door. We'll build a custom object. We'll populate values in that custom object. So that's where we're going to store both of these data points. And then once we have our data, we're going to use D3 to build a special quadrant visualization. And then we're going to extend that Visualforce page. The D3 visualization sits in a Visualforce page. And we're going to show some of the ways that you can extend that Visualforce page to utilize native Salesforce visualization technology in the form of Wave. So just to talk about the account classification methodology, I mentioned survey scores are important in this for this client. So they want to know the rep's reputation or the rep's relationships with contacts at the company, how their product aligns with the strategic objectives of the customer, the level of competition that we're facing, diversity and depths of products that they've bought. And then there are two hard values that are important. That's open pipeline amount and total contract value. Total contract value comes from ERP data that's stored in Oracle EBS, and the dollar value of opportunities in the pipeline is just the amount of money that's in the pipeline. This is a pretty simple calculation. So we're going to create a custom object. This is where we're going to save their survey score, total contract value. And then an important thing to note is this stratification category. So basically the stratification category utilizes some custom settings and the total contract value and the survey score to actually classify the the accounts. They have 4 different categories, and if you can imagine a quadrant, the quadrant has 4 different sections. So accounts will fit into different sections depending on what category they get. I'm not going to dive too deep into the custom settings piece of this, but it allows for some configurability in case we need to adjust where accounts are falling. If we find out that not enough accounts are falling in a certain quadrant, we can use the custom settings to tweak that. So to visualize the data, we'll use D3. I've linked the URL, which you can click on. This deck will be included in the YouTube video. This is a JavaScript heavy solution, so if you're not comfortable with JavaScript, it's going to be challenging. And to walk through some of the technical piece of this, and I'll link this code in GitHub as well, but we're going to build a grid with an x-axis and a y-axis. So let me just jump over to the visualization so folks can see. So here's my Visualforce page, Strat visualization, and you can see that different companies fall into different categories in this grid. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to build a grid. We're going to add y-axes and x-axes to it. And this is the code to do that. And I've just copied a snippet of it, but we append a path to this D3 is built on SVG. And basically, what we're doing is we're taking a certain grid spacing, taking the width of the div that we're appending all this information to, and we're beginning to draw lines. So this is drawing a grid. Then we will find the midpoint of our grid, and we will draw a line across it. And then we will find the horizontal midpoint of our grid, and we'll draw a y-axis for it. Once we have our grid, we need to add dots to it. So you saw in the magic quadrant there were different points that indicated where things should be. So we're going to use the stratification category that sits on the object, and we're going to return an x value that's based off of the total contract value, and then we're going to return a y value that's based on the raw y value, which is basically the survey score data from our stratification solution. So D3 provides really good visualization possibilities. You can do anything with D3, but you need to know JavaScript really well. And rather than continue to extend this page with a bunch more D3, I thought it would be good to try and utilize some more native Salesforce technology, and that's where Wave comes in. So this Wave :dashboard is the tag that you use to embed a Wave dashboard in a Visualforce page. The component has a bunch of different attributes that you can add. So the dashboard ID is a critical thing to include. Height is important. Width is important, obviously. Title. Some of these are pretty straightforward. You can add filters to your dashboard. So if you only want to show data that's relevant to a certain account and you're embedding your component in a standard controller for an account, you can actually add little filters, like if the only pull opportunities for a certain account name. And this is the code that we're embedding in our page. So I have a ton of D3 code in this page, and with this little tag, we can embed a really great visualization into the Visualforce page. So this can be really helpful if you want to add interactive data to a Visualforce page without having to write a ton of code. Here's an example of how you could add a filter to the page. Okay, so I already showed the visualization a little bit, but let's just jump over here real quick. So we have accounts. We've got a drop down here, so you can change how the data comes over. So if you only want to include accounts that are in the US East region, we can provide that granularity. And then what we're doing is embedding a Visualforce page in this well, adding the Wave dashboard tag to this Visual Force page. So what we're doing here is for each region, we're summarizing the data for how many enterprise implementers they have, how many high potential accounts they have, product transactors, and strategic partners. And I think this is something I did not talk about before, but enterprise implementers sit in the top right of the quadrant, or sorry, strategic partners sit in the top right of the quadrant. These are the highest value customers that we want to make sure that we are servicing the best way possible. Top left is product transactors. So these are people who do a lot of business with us, but do not, but we don't really see them as being a long-term strategic partner. In the bottom right, we have enterprise implementers. These are people who do large projects with us, but have kind of maxed out their engagement with us. And in the bottom left-hand corner, we've got product transactors, and these are people that are just going to buy small products from us, or they're not buying in large volume, and they're probably not going to be buying in large volume at any point. We are happy to do business with them, but they don't fit into the higher end, higher value accounts. So it's important to know for each region, and we could provide different dimensions here, but for each region, what the breakdown looks like. So for US East, you can see we have strategic partners, high potential, and enterprise implementers, but we don't have any product transactors. So that's probably good for the US East. For the US South, they have strategic partners and enterprise implementers, so they've got a lot of stuff on this side of the grid, which is good for reps in the US South Central. But there's also not a ton of diversity, so they don't have some smaller accounts that they can count on to be buying, every quarter. With Wave, one of the great things, you can hover over your data, see that, okay, we have one enterprise implementer, we have one strategic partner. We can do multi-filters, so this is US South Central and West. So overall, this gives a good example of some of the capabilities of Visual Force, and also some of the capabilities that are emerging with Wave as that product continues to develop and there continue to be tighter integrations with Visual Force. For more information, this code is going to be posted in the link for this YouTube video, and my email address is also listed in the description. Feel free to reach out at any time, and I would be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.